young man there. Go ahead and stand up next to Santa.
Alright, so going to that topic.
Yeah.
Now, was it completely your idea and no one knew that Undertaker was going to throw you off?
Oh, the Undertaker thing. You're going to be that guy, huh? Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. No. I'll tell you what, I'm going to incorporate that into my ending story because, man, I didn't believe it until I saw it. I'd heard rumors, but until I opened up the door in Austin, Texas about 12 days ago and saw the Undertaker standing there in front of me, I thought there's no way he's coming to one of my shows. So we had a chance to catch up and reminisce about a couple of things that are going to lead me to my final story, okay? So let's take a couple more questions. That's not a bad question. Go ahead, man.
Which one hurt you worse, the Hell in a Cell against Undertaker or 2 months later against Kane?
You're that guy too.
We have no, it's not that guy, it's those guys. I'll cover that in the last story, okay? Anyone have a non-Hell in a Cell wrestling question? Yes? What's my favorite match that what? My favorite match ever was probably Backlash against Randy Orton, 2004. I came back, I really had been away for 4 years, and I came back at WrestleMania, first time in 4 years, and people were patting me on the back, and they were telling me I had a great match, and I knew in my heart I really hadn't. It was actually Stone Cold who came up to me almost the end of the show, and he went, "Kid, we've known each other a long time, haven't we?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You consider me to be a straight shooter?" And I said, "Yeah." And he looked me right in the eye and he said, "You dropped the ball out there tonight." Man, it hurt so bad because I knew he was right. And so I came back a month later and I knew I had that one chance to have that, you know, redeem myself and have that great match. And I remember I really was in the zone, you know. I used to really get in the zone for those matches. And I walked up and a beautiful young lady named Stacy Keebler saw me and she said, this isn't going to be one of those bloody things, is it? And I went, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." And it was, but it was really good. All right. Who's got it? All right, over there, standing up. Any of the guys from Psychopathic Records have a question? Hey, you guys, yeah, let me hear it. All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate being here. Go ahead.
Will you ever wrestle for TV?
Who was crazier, me or Necro Butcher? I gotta tell you, he did a lot of the same stuff I did, but for a lot longer and for a lot less money, which puts him and Sabu kind of in a class of their own. So yeah, man, and a tough guy, a crazy guy, but a smart guy too, man. A lot of respect for him, and he was awesome in The Wrestler, man. That even made me cringe, you know? All right, we have a person out there with a question. We'll take like 3 more. Go ahead.
Totally off subject, but could I please have your autograph?
Oh, that is completely off the subject. I'll try to get to that, okay? And are you a Misfits fan?
Yes, I am.
Do you know their version of Blue Christmas?
I may be in a video for that. Yeah. All right. We got a couple of people in Santa attire here. I think you got to admit there's a certain amount of courage required to show up at the gathering of the Juggalos with slippers, sweatpants, a fanny pack, and 2 Santa Claus shirts. That's how I roll. All right, let me have a question right there.
My question was, before you said that, but why are you wearing a fanny pack?
Why am I, man? I'll be honest with you. I watched WWE Network, WWE Countdown about the top 10 tag teams. And while I was flattered that The Rock and I were listed at number 4, I was, honestly, man, I was shocked by some of my fashion choices. The Rock would appreciate that. I looked at the thing and I was like, man, from the bright blue sweatpants I wore when I was teaming up with The Rock to like the ill-fitting sports coat that WWE used to require me to wear, to the Native American fringe jacket that was offensive to all Native Americans. I just looked at it like, as long as I'm going to be making all these fashion errors, I might as well make one that allows me to carry around 2 weeks of stuff on my waist. And I went back to the pack, man. And so I try to live life on my own terms, and like a lot of you do, and this is one of my terms. Cactus Sack rocks the pack. All right. Let me get that story you guys wanted to hear. You doing okay, young man? All right, cool. Yeah, man. The Undertaker showed up in my dressing room in Austin, and we reminisced, and man, up until that point, I'd completely forgotten that during that infamous cell match, that he had a broken bone in his foot. Remember that, okay? And then up until last April when I was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I really did live in dread of people coming up to me with questions, because I knew that every question, like I said, was going to be, did it hurt? Like I just dreaded it. And then I was very lucky that April of 2013, I was inducted not only in an arena, Madison Square Garden, that had meant a lot to me, the arena I grew up hitchhiking to, taking trains to, where I saw Jimmy Superfly Snuka leap off the top of the steel cage. But I was inducted by Terry Funk with an N, so technically I'm still at 0 on my F-bomb meter, am I not? That's pretty commendable, right? And he, for the first time, shed light on words that were exchanged between he and The Undertaker during that match that would forevermore make me see it in a different way. It was brand new. It wasn't 15 years old. It was brand new. And understand the magnitude of those words. If I can, I'll take you guys on a little journey back into June 1998 after I'd been thrown off that massive cell structure the first time. Now, I learned in the United Kingdom not to say I was tossed off. It means something different over there. None of us want to think of The Undertaker that way. He's already lost the streak. The cell, for those of you who don't know, those of you who might not be wrestling fans, was a massive steel structure rumored to be upwards of 40 feet in the air. In truth, it was legitimate 16 feet. And ladies and gentlemen, once you've been thrown, not tossed, off a structure 6 feet taller than a basketball rim, there's really no need for further exaggeration. Although if Jim Ross wants to show up in the Foley bedroom and apply that same type of mathematics to the play-by-play, that might be appreciated. By God, look at the circumference. Here's to your math fans out there. But after I was thrown off that steel structure that first time, they came out with a gurney, stretcher on wheels, and began wheeling me up that aisle. Everybody thought that match was over. Nobody would have thought less of me if it had been. But on that one night, I found the strength the fortitude to roll off that gurney, and I began ascending that massive steel structure one more time. Slowly, I'll grant you that. It was not a speedy journey, but it was completed with the peace of mind that can only come from knowing. Absolutely knowing. That can only come from absolutely knowing that the worst part of my evening was over with. That was my bad. Things got worse. They got a lot worse. The Undertaker choke slammed me on top of that cell. My body went through that mesh like a hot knife through butter. I hit that canvas and I was unconscious upon impact. When I say unconscious, when I say knocked out, I'm not talking about one of those referee Earl Hebner type of knocked out either. Where he takes a glancing blow in the corner and his body loses all semblance of life.
He screwed Brett!
Yeah, he did screw Brett. Not literally. All right, just make sure. It wasn't like he had the hitman bent over the ropes in Montreal going, brother, you really are the best there is. Too soon? All right. To me, herein lies the irony of professional wrestling. Because if you're here as a wrestling fan or as a fan of ICP, you've been mocked or derided for your choices at one time or another. Probably many times, am I right? As wrestling fans, people go, why do you watch that stuff, that fake stuff, that phony stuff? And I'll go, all right, listen, man, I'll grant you, hold on, man. I'll grant you there are elements in that, in what we do, but I'll ask you to walk up to even the most ardent MMA enthusiast and say, hey, man, does your sport continue when one of the participants is no longer conscious? Mine does. In truth, if that same event were to take place in 2014 instead of 1998, that match would be stopped immediately. That'd be the correct move, the responsible move. But fortunately for me, in a weird way, it was not the move that was made in 1998, because had it been the move made in 1998, no one would have been talking about that match a month down the road, let alone 16 years later. Because in WWE, in 1998, we didn't stop matches in WWE. We didn't stop matches. We didn't stop matches. We bought time. I can almost imagine Mr. McMahon behind the curtain going, buy him some time. And it was in the hopes of buying me time that Terry Funk with an N, I'm still at 0 on the F-bomb meter, right? He entered the ring. It was then that he and The Undertaker shared some words. Now, I'd probably seen that DVD 100 times, but the words were said so casually that it never once caused me to turn to my wife, my kids, any of the WWE superstars, or Al Snow. And say, hey, I wonder what Terry said. When I was standing there behind that curtain 6 feet away from Terry Funk in Madison Square Garden, he shared those words and sent a chill down my spine. He said, The Undertaker just walked by, casually turned his head and said, see if he's alive. See if he's alive. I think I'm fortunate I was knocked out, because had I just been coming to and heard that voice say, see if he's alive, it would have scared the crap out of me. So Terry actually walks over and checks on me, comes back to The Undertaker and reports that he's still breathing. At which point The Undertaker chokeslammed Terry Funk, and in the process, Terry's shoes came off his feet. Now let's examine the evidence at hand here, okay? We got a story about 3 human beings. One who, with a broken bone in his foot, dropped a considerable distance, was limping noticeably inside that ring. That human being chokeslammed a second human being right out of his shoes. And they did it in the hopes of buying time for a third human being, previously thought to be deceased, so that they might buy enough time for that third human being to regain consciousness, so he might continue a fake wrestling match. That's hardcore. Now, upon regaining consciousness, and I was out by 92 seconds by my own count, I rolled very slowly over to my stomach. And after rolling very slowly over to my stomach, my next bodily move was a bob of my head. The reason I bobbed my head is because my first conscious thought was, where'd those shoes come from? Look at those shoes. And I tried to stand, but I fell back down like a newborn colt. It was the end. The Undertaker walked over me at that time. Remember, he had that long mane of dark hair, so when he leaned over, it was like a protective curtain. No one ever knew the words that were shared between me and the Undertaker. I ask you, what happens at the gathering stays at the gathering. I'm going to share this with you and prepare to get a shiver down your spine. I'll never forget it. He just leaned down and said to me, hey there, fella. question? Did it hurt? Three of no. Rest assured, that's not what the Undertaker sounds like, all right? In truth, the words were even more ominous. There were only two of them. In truth, the Undertaker leaned down. He said two words. He just said, "Go home." And even if you're not a wrestling fan, you're pretty sure he wasn't talking about having me pack my bags and catch that next flight to Long Island. Because in wrestle speak, go home means what? Match is done. For those of you not aware of the Undertaker's reputation in the ring or in the dressing room, as a general rule, when he gives an order in the ring, it's not open to negotiation. But on that one night, for some reason I'll never know, something seemed to speak to me, something bigger than the two of us, something almost spiritual, and I found the strength to carry on, and we walked and worked our way into the pages of wrestling history. Now, it wasn't easy. After I knocked him off that top rope, I collapsed against the bottom turnbuckles, and I began assessing my situation. Unbeknownst to me, there had been a chair up on top of that cell that followed me down every foot of my journey and smashed into my face, doing considerable damage to my already considerably damaged dental work, causing one of my teeth to become lodged somewhere strange. Where was it? Nose. Once again, lucky I was not aware of that, because had I known there was a tooth lodged in my nose, I would have been embarrassed. A certain style I like to maintain. But I collapsed against that bottom turnbuckle and began assessing my physical state, and I thought to myself, okay, Mick, you got a massive wound. You got a massive wound underneath your lip, and if you can think of a way to take your tongue, stick it through that massive wound. If you can take your tongue, take your tongue. Take your tongue, stick it through that massive wound. If you can take your tongue, stick it through that massive wound and wriggle it. You can find a way to take your tongue, stick it through that massive wound and wriggle it. It's going to create some captivating television. Because that was my commitment to my craft. If I could just take that tongue, stick it through. Take that tongue, stick it through their massive wound and go. But as it turned out, with the beard and the blood loss, you couldn't see my tongue at all, let alone wriggling. So therefore, Jim Ross was not incorrect when he made the immortal cry, "My goodness, look at him, he's smiling." In fairness to JR, this is kind of what it looked like. Now, when I was giving that speech, I had asked The Undertaker a week earlier if I could mention his name and thank him personally during my induction, not for throwing me off a cell in 1998, but for placing me on the world stage in WWE in 1996 with our match in the United States and around the world, because I'm pretty sure that had it not been for The Undertaker in 1996, I wouldn't be standing on that stage in 2013 in New York City, let alone this stage here, right here in Thornville, Ohio, in 2014. And I was told that as I was giving that speech, as I was thanking him, The Undertaker got as close to emotional as anyone has ever seen him. Keep in mind, he watches backstage on a monitor next to Mr. McMahon. I'm about to find that megaphone and stick it up your candy ass. Would the man with the megaphone care to stand? Young man, you are obviously playing with a limited hand in the game of life. So go ahead and yell with your little microphone. Go ahead. Go for it, man. Jimmy Hart would appreciate the tribute. I was going to yell at him, and he's just so sad and pathetic looking. Nature's already dealt with you in a severe way, young man. No need for me to inflict further harm. Oh, he's a girl? My bad. Whoops. Thank you. I was going to call you brother, but you're not a brother or a dude. Thank you. All right. But turn that thing off in the next couple minutes. Will you do that, please? For me, the hardcore legend? All right. Thank you. Yeah, had it not been for The Undertaker, I would have been standing on that stage in New York City in 2013, let alone on this stage at the gathering of the Juggalos in 2014. And I was told that while I was thanking him, The Undertaker got as close to emotional as anyone's ever seen him, keeping in mind that he doesn't watch the proceedings with the rest of the wrestlers and the fans and the crowd. And you might ask why. Go ahead and ask why. Why? Because he's The Undertaker. Plays by a different set of rules. You don't cut to him during a commercial break and say, hey, always great to see The Undertaker. Have him put his thumb, yeah. So he's watching on a monitor backstage next to Mr. McMahon, and getting as emotional as anyone's ever seen him. So when I walked off that stage, he was the first person I saw. I walked through that curtain, he greeted me, and he gave me a big hug. Like a big hug. And that's significant because he's not a hugger. He could be on this stage 100 nights in a row and the word wriggle is not going to leave his lips. He doesn't make sound effects like woo, 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 woo. But he saw fit to hug me, and it put the perfect ending to the most important night of my life. So at this point, 16 years after the fact, the only thing that haunts me about that evening, and I'm talking about keeping me awake at night type of haunting, is the conversation I'm told I had with referee Mike Chioda after the fact. You guys know who referee Mike Chioda is? Yeah! The WWE official who hasn't changed his personal appearance in 32 years. Looks exactly the same. According to Mike Chioda, our conversation went something like this. He said, Cactus, we're bringing a stretcher out for you. And I raised my arm and I said, have I already been on a stretcher tonight? And he said, yeah. I lifted my arm again. I know on a certain level the reason I lifted my arm is I didn't want anybody in the Pittsburgh Civic Arena to see me talking. And I said, Mike, I can't be on 2 stretchers in one night. And the part that scares me about that is I have no idea where that came from. No recollection of my dad sitting me down when I was 6 or 7 years old and going, son, you're gonna be facing a lot of pressure in this lifetime. I don't care what the other kids in school do. I don't care how many stretchers they ride. You're a Foley, damn it! 1 stretcher for you. Thank you very much, Juggalos. I really appreciate it.